Well, welcome to another awesome episode here in the tiny room. As always, please subscribe, like and share so we can get this amazing information out there. I'm Lucinda Jane Valentine. I'm the owner and lead therapist here at the tiny room, and we are going to get into an awesome topic today. But firstly, I'd love to welcome our amazing intern, Whitney Williams, and she's going to share her story today around grief. But firstly, I'd love for her to just give a little bit of background on how the heck did Whitney end up here in the tiny room, and how did she kind of just get to know about the tiny room and her thoughts on us at the tiny room. So Whitney, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here. It's so fun.
Yes, and we love having Whitney on our team. So Whitney, we are extremely blessed to have you as part of our team. But firstly, I think our viewers need to know the background to, as I said, how the heck did you end up in the tiny room and sitting here in front of them today?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to just give a little bit of an intro, you being a uni student, but also your passion for mental health.
Yeah.
So just briefly, how did you end up being part of our team and part of our family?
Yeah, so it started last year. I think it was December. I ran into someone in the mall actually, and they were talking about like, oh, you're still in university, or what's the plan, because I haven't seen them in a while. And they were saying to me, the next challenge that you're going to have is finding a job. I was like, well, that's depressing.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the dose of reality. And they were like, yeah, because people are looking for experience more than a piece of paper. And I was sitting with that, I was like, oh, I don't actually have any experience in what I am currently studying. And so I was chatting with my aunt one day, because it was sitting with me. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I was freaking out. And then she was like, just apply for internships, like look for internships, apply to different places and see what happens. And I actually know like a friend, I'll reach out to her and see if she maybe knows someone. And I was like, okay, cool, we can see what happens. And then she got back and she was like, my friend messaged me, she wants to meet you, text her, let's get it going. And I was like, okay, great. And then I did that, and it kind of worked out really well, you know, like, and I'm here now and it's so great. I'm learning so much about not only psychology but communication skills in business, which is fantastic, and I'm so happy to be here. It's so fun.
But now, just to give some background as to what are you studying, I think our viewers will probably be interested in, you know, what are you studying? Because I was intrigued when you told me what you're studying, and I was like, what is that? So maybe just give a bit.
So it started out as like a normal plain cut BA psychology degree, which is probably what everyone does when they go into university, like, oh, I'm going to be a psychologist. But I didn't really know the difference between psychologist, psychiatrist, therapy, all those things, which I'm now learning about being here. And so I was like, okay, community psychology or child psychology. Child psychology was the first thing that I went into. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do children. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to do children. I'm not going to, I'll probably end up every single day crying. I can't do that. So I was like, that's not where I'm going. Let's change course. And then I ended up here. So basically what community psychology is basically psych for the community. So it's mostly where NPOs and NGOs would work to give free counselling services to people in the community. So that's kind of where I'm thinking of ending up.
And you're in third year at the moment?
Yes.
Okay, so that's awesome. So you got next year, which is your final year. Whitney's been with us now for about 3 months, and is going to do a few more months with us as an intern, but she's an absolute asset. And yeah, like you said, you're learning a lot about communication, but also you mentioned the difference between a clinical psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, a therapist. There are differences. There's differences in scope. It's really important for our viewers to know the difference. Even the individuals studying don't even know it, and that's kind of concerning for me. So the tiny room is big on educating the public, the community, our family here at TTR, on the differences between all of it, so that you are informed to know what is the need and how to get the right help. But now just kind of going into a very pointed topic, and a topic that or a focus area that we take quite seriously at the tiny room, and it's quite close to my heart because I've seen the detrimental effects of not addressing grief. And almost like societally, I don't know if it's maybe a South African thing, maybe it is globally, I don't know. You can comment below if you have some feedback, but grief is not taken seriously. I know trauma isn't taken seriously enough, but grief for some reason I find is even more in the background. And there are stages that you need to work through with a client to make sure you process and heal and unpack grief. And you need a professional to do that. To be quite honest with you, you can read a book and you can try, but I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, you need a professional to help you with that. If you leave it, it festers, and you've got an awesome story, which is your own story of how, like, your journey of grief. And I'd love for you to maybe just give an insight as to take us back to what happened and how this unfolded for you, and then we'll just unpack little bits as we go along. So go for it.
So the story starts in like October 2014.
Okay.
My oldest brother, Mondre, he was 25 and he was diagnosed with leukemia in 2014, like October 2014. And it was it's a tricky thing because it's like it's a sibling. You usually hear of grandparents or parents getting sick. So it was like, oh, it's a sibling, this is scary, cancer is pretty scary, so like what's gonna happen? And I was 14, I was like fresh 14 at the time. So it's like, oh, okay, this is scary.
Grade 8?
9, I was grade, so
it's early high school.
Early high school, yeah. So I was like, okay, this is pretty scary. I remember like him being scared, so that transferred to me being scared, and I was like, okay, I don't really know what's going on. And I remember very clearly him not wanting to get treatment for the cancer because he was so scared. He was like, what's gonna happen? I'm afraid. But he's like, no, you don't need to be afraid. But he was afraid. And I remember telling me, like, treatment is there for a reason. Go and get the treatment. Like, it can help. Let's do it. And he eventually did.
Okay.
And I don't remember. I think I disassociated with the memories a lot because it's so... I need to unpack it still. It's still with me somehow.
Yeah.
But I remember not seeing him often while he was getting his treatments, like in the hospital and all those things. My dad would obviously take him and be with him, but I remember not going to see him a lot. And the one day I did after I finished exams, and I was like, okay, I'm going to see him. I finally have the time, let's go and see what's going on. And I remember walking in there and looking at him, and he looked like a ghost of himself. Like, he used to be super well built. He was not ashamed of his body. He was like, yeah, I'm chubby and I'm here for it. And I saw him and I was like, who is this person? You have his face, but who is this vessel that you're attached to? And I was so scared. I remember being smiley and then seeing him, and I was like, who is this?
Yeah.
And I told my dad I don't want to go back. Like, I'm not going to see him again. This is too much. I'm not
Did
going.
you lose a lot of weight?
Yeah, he was super skinny. Like, I could see his bones through his clothing. And I was like, I'm not going back. I'm so sorry, I'm not. So I didn't go back. I think that was like in November. I didn't go back to see him. And then my parents went to see him December 21st. And this is kind of where the story kind of takes off. So they went to see him December 21st. And he was so excited. He was like, you know, the Lord's going to bring me out of this. He's going to heal me. He still said, when praise demands a sacrifice, I'll worship even then. And this is the sacrifice and all those things. And my parents were there. They were praying with him and everything. And they were fine. They came back. They're like, he's doing okay. He's in good spirits. And he loves you. He just wanted me to tell you that he loves you. The next day was the turning point, because then he had picked up an infection.
Oh goodness, in the hospital?
No, he was outpatient, so then we had to rush him into the hospital. And they were literally struggling with him for multiple hours.
Oh goodness.
And that day I still had to go to school to register for like day 10, because you have to like choose your subjects and do all those things. So I had to go that day. So my mom was with me, my dad was with him in the hospital. And I was like, oh, we need to get done, we need to get going. And they took so long that day at school. I was like, guys, let's go, what's going on? And it took over 5 hours for us to get out of there. Goodness. And by the time we got to the hospital, they were still busy with him. Still trying to stabilize the doctors. Like, we're doing blood transfusions, we're doing all these things. He's still unresponsive, we don't know what's going on, it's a bad infection. Because leukemia, obviously, it's in the blood, it targets the immune system, it does all those things. And we get to the hospital, they're like, no, they're still fighting, we're still fighting, we don't know what's going on. We're giving him all the things we can, we don't know what the infection is, we don't know what to do. We're sitting there, we're like, we don't know what's going to happen. You're just sitting in the waiting room, praying, hoping they're going to figure this out. They eventually transfer him to the ICU, and they're like, okay, he's stable enough, you guys can go in and see him. I told my mom, I was like, I'm not going in, this is scary, I'm scared, I don't want to. She's like, I think you should, like, this could be the last time that you could see him, so I think you should go in. So I was like, oh, Mom, okay, sure, it's gonna be the last time. And then I remember walking into the ICU, and I see him to the right. I see him. I'm like, okay, cool, he's there. He's alive-ish. He's got the ventilator on, and in the ICU they have like this very tight procedure. You have to wash your hands and do all these things. So I walk over, I'm washing my hands, and I look up and I can see him, and he's like struggling to breathe. So the ventilators are beeping, and I'm like, oh gosh, is this the moment? Yeah. And then the nurses are rushing over there looking, and then he stops, he calms down. I'm like, okay, cool, he's breathing, we're fine. Cool, he's still alive, let's go. So I'm washing my hands, putting on the whole outfit. My mom's there. She's like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, nah, I don't want to. She's like, come, let's go.
It's a lot of stuff happening. It's very, I don't like hospitals.
Yeah, it's so scary. And I'm like, I'm 14. And not the 14-year-olds that are around today. I'm like 14, really naive to the world. Like, oh, this is...
Yeah.
I was just really naive. Like, oh, yeah, this is... I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So we're walking over. My mom's like, no, it's gonna be fine. And he sees me and he starts shaking his head. He's like, no, get her out. Like he's moving, and he's like, no. Because obviously the blood transfusions were happening, and he didn't want me to see the needles or the blood or the ventilator. She's like, no, get her out. And then my mom's like, no, she's staying. Okay. And then he calms down. I look at him. I hold his hand. I'm like, I love you. And he manages to mouth like through the ventilator, I love you too. And that was the last thing I managed to say to him. And the next day, December 23rd, 2014, we got the call saying he was on his last. I think it's time you guys make your way to the hospital.
So the fiction was still there, it still took over. Yeah. That is what was actually, not even the leukemia, but it was the actual infection.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And so we go there, and I'm like, this is not real at all.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that I'm about to say goodbye to my oldest brother.
Yeah.
I do know that I didn't go into the room, like, for the last moment. Yeah. Everyone else is going back, like, Ian, parents are crying, people are phoning. Yeah. They're like, oh, this is happening. And it's like 2 days before Christmas. So everyone's doing their Christmas thing, and we're phoning them to say, guys, that this is, he's about to go. And
you're one of 3, hey?
We were 4, so now we're...
Yeah, okay, you're one of 3 now, but you're one of 4, okay.
Yeah. And my other brother, Aiden, he was in the room with Monday when he passed away. Like, he was there for, like, the final breath, the monitors going off and everything. I can't imagine that being me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is...
He took that blow for the rest of you, but at least there was someone there, from family.
And that's kind of like how it started, because I remember, after him passing, feeling so much pain, like unexplainable pain, because I think it was the first moment of death that I had felt for myself. Yeah. Like, my grandmother had passed away, but I was 11.
Yeah.
This was like my sibling, 14. I was cognitive. I know what's going on.
Of course, yes.
Like, I know this is death, and I know what it feels like. And this is kind of like my first experience. And after that, I was heartbroken, but consumed with guilt, because I didn't go and see him. It's like, why did you waste all that time being scared, not wanting to see him? It wasn't about you.
Yeah.
And I was like, but why couldn't that have been me? Like, why take a 25-year-old? Why am I spareable?
Yeah.
Like, I'm also young.
And now that reminds me, there's a couple of things that I'm thinking as you're speaking, and a lot of you would have experienced this if you've gone through grief or lost a loved one, is the prep. That, I mean, there was a little while of you now seeing him deteriorate. Obviously the infection happened quite quickly, but and this is why I love Kirsty being on our team, and she's got experience with palliative care, and it's walking a journey with somebody that is either got cancer or has an illness that yes, you can recover from, but maybe not. And then walking that journey with the family, not only the person with the illness, to prep them for whatever. And it's like what I call pre-grief therapy or counselling. And then I don't know, and you can tell me, what was the next day or the next 48 hours or 72 hours like when it came to grief debriefing? Was the outside of the family somebody that walked the journey with you to go through those stages of grief? Like, what? And it was Christmas just after, so I'm like thinking of all of this festive season family vibes. you're going through the worst as a family, grappling with your own humanness and your flesh and bone and emotions and thoughts and guilt, and they call it survivor guilt, and you having survivor guilt now, and that's a thing, a big thing. Who helps you? Like, what happens afterwards?
That is it. Like, the first few days after it is strange, because you're thinking, how am I gonna go on? How am I gonna live? We have to do the funeral arrangements and still kind of keep yourself together. People are coming in and out, but there's not really one person specifically walking the journey with you and being like, oh, these are the things, the tools you need to overcome this. These are the things that you need to survive and work through what you're going through. Because grief is not something that you can just put a plaster over and be like, oh yeah, let's go, we're done. Oh, they gone, I'm okay. Like, it's not like that. And I thought it was like that, because that's what I tried to do. I was like, okay, cool, he's gone, plaster, let's go. We're pushing with life. But it sits with you, and if you don't sit and deal with it, it can consume you.
So what was the consuming that happened with time going past and not getting the correct help?
So once he was obviously gone, I was like, oh cool, the funeral's done. Now I can live. I can live a normal life. I'm going to grade 10. I was focused on what life is looking like from here. I'm like, okay, I'm going to school. I have to do the things. But I didn't realize at the time in my 14, almost 15-year-old brain that, oh, this is gonna change you. This is gonna change you a lot. And the way that grief was within me, it made me physically ill.
Oh goodness, what did that look like?
Yeah, it made me physically ill. So there were it started out as bronchitis and laryngitis, so I had no voice. People used to call me whisper.
Okay.
Because there was no sound. I would talk and nothing would come out. And that lasted for like 2 years.
What?
No sound at all. So I would whisper, like there would just be a whisper sound that would come out. I was in and out of the hospital. They were like, oh yeah, it could be a heart defect, it could be a lung infection, it could be this.
Wow.
Blood panels, every single test that could have been done was done. And they're like, no, this is normal, no, that is normal. And I was like, but I still can't speak. There's nothing coming out. And one Wednesday night, a pastor spoke to my mom, and he was like, this is not a physical issue. This is mourning.
Yeah.
And watching, I think it was Mantumbi's episode earlier this year, she said, grief lives within the body.
Yeah.
And it manifests within the body, like in physical ailments as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. That was a light bulb moment for me, because I was like, that's what happened to me. And that's clearly what happened. And I was so frustrated, because going to the hospital, they're like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Blood tests are normal. Now there's nothing there. And there's still no sound. I was so frustrated. And I was thinking, if this is what the rest of my life is going to look like, why am I spared then?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
Why was it not me then?
Because there's a long time to not have a voice.
Yeah. And people, they would encourage me and be like, the Lord wants you to be silent and listen.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd be like, yeah, He just wants you to be still and listen to what He has to say.
Wow.
And I'm like, yeah, you want me to be still for a long time. And I'm not really sure what He's saying, but okay, I'll be still.
Wow.
And then my parents were like, the best thing that we can do is let's take you to a speech therapist and let them work you through getting your voice back. So I was doing that. But this illnesses and doctor's visits obviously affected schooling, because I had to be in and out of school the whole time. And
adding stress.
Yeah, adding stress. So now, not in school, my grades are looking really bad. And I'm like, oh, so I'm sucking at that too. And so what's the point? Well, what am I supposed to do here? And I was like, where's meaning in life? What am I supposed to do? And I had a light bulb moment like a year and a half later, and I just felt like the Lord was saying, this is gonna change somebody's life one day, your story. And I was like, it's gonna, maybe it's gonna, I don't really know, like, okay Lord, what are you trying to say? Okay, fine, I'll believe you. And I went to a speech therapist, and going to the speech therapist not only brought my voice back, but it helped me get to the root of what was going on. And I realized, oh, I'm grieving, I'm mourning, I'm hurt.
There's trauma.
Yeah, there's trauma that I need to sit and deal with, and I need to overcome it. And God bless the speech therapist, because she was a speech therapist, not a therapist. And you know, my parents didn't really know much about mental health or what to do, because you know, they themselves were grieving. And you know,
yes,
because they had lost a son.
Yeah.
So they were in their own mourning process, and they were doing the best to support me in what I was feeling and what I was dealing with, and doing the best with like the doctors, every single thing that they could do. But they didn't know that it was a mental health issue. It was a grieving issue that I needed to speak to somebody to walk me through the journey, because you know, parents back in the day are not really all clued up on what's happening with me
nowadays. Even I mean, so many of our parents are doing the best that they know. If you don't know better, you can't do better. And so they don't go and do degrees like we do on how to actually help their tweens and their teens with mental health and trauma and grief and all this stuff, and they themselves are sitting with trauma and grief and not getting the help that they need. And I'm like, this is a generational thing, guys.
Yes, for sure. So like, God bless them, they really did the best that they could, and I know that like without their support it probably would have been much worse for me. But yeah, it is a tough journey. And you know, like in prepping for and thinking about, okay, what am I gonna say today, I was looking back at, you know, the journey and how far and how deep it was, and I can't believe that like I was able to walk through it without professional help, because it was so difficult. So it's so isolating, it's so scary to feel all the things that you're feeling. Like, I don't think that you can pinpoint the emotion that you feel. It just hurts so bad.
But also I'm just thinking, like, people are struggling, and we have clients from all ages, all backgrounds. I think we've probably got the most diverse client base in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, because we are based here in the northern suburbs of Cape Town, but we've also got virtual clients from you know, around the world, all South African but still from around the world. And just doing life is hard, and now you go through that, and I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. You're already overwhelmed with being a teen, the most awkward times of a person's life, grade 6 to grade 12, and then you're going through that. And then you got all of this big stuff. Almost like adult stuff. Large enough to say it's adult stuff at that age. And I'm like, that's too big, layered weights happening. It's very complex.
It's so complex.
Just like you said, it's really like miraculous on how you move through. So you start talking again, I take it.
At the end of like grade 11, it starts, after working with the speech therapist, it starts coming back. And I'm like, oh, there's sound. And everyone was really excited, you know, because after 2 years of no voice, they're like, oh gosh, she has her voice back. And I remember feeling so grateful to be alive. And even now, when I speak, I'm like, oh, I don't take this voice for granted, because it comes from a place where I had to learn how to speak again. I had to go through that journey to find my voice, because it was taken away and it was gone. But I speak, but the grief is still there. Like, I don't feel it physically, like in physical ailments, but it's there in the heart, and you kind of still have to unpack it. And the best way that I can say I overcame it mostly was through like good community of people, like a great community of people.
Support system.
Having people walk beside you, even if they are not with you every single day or in your presence every single day. Having a good support system of people speaking into your life in moments when all you feel is despair, and all you feel is heartbreak, and all you feel like is sadness. It's okay to feel that, but having people be there to support you when you feel that way and encourage you is super impactful, and it helps you get over the line. I didn't know that I was feeling an overwhelm of grief, or that it was affecting my mental health. I just thought, okay, this is probably normal, this is what everyone feels. But I wasn't aware of the mental aspect and all of the lack of, like, the guilt and the lack of wanting to be alive was on mental health issue, because
Yeah.
I mean there were thoughts of maybe I should just end it here.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't live, because why should I be?
Yeah.
Why should I be living?
Yeah. Why am I left? You know,
Yeah.
why? A lot of whys.
Yeah.
But also having, and this is something people don't take seriously until I also went through a physical, almost like destruction of the mental health neglect. And people don't realize the link between mental health and physical health. It is very linked, and you've experienced it in your own way, where you lose your speech, you lose your voice, and maybe like you said, there was bronchitis and all kinds of other things that were now taking place in your body. You need to get your mind sorted to then see your physical health, and sometimes you got to get your physical health sorted to help your mental health. So it's very much this loop. But I'm also thinking of when you were talking about management and just trying to like overcome and all of those layers. I'm just thinking what your journey would have been like, and you were saying about the support system, what your journey would have been like if you didn't have that support system. And a lot of our clients that come here don't have a family support system. Maybe they've moved overseas and the person's left on their own here, and they go through a loss of a job, which is a grief process in its own. A friend, you know, passes away, or a friendship comes to an end, or a romantic relationship comes to an end. Grief is in many different forms. And you still need to go through a grief process of all of that. You know, there's survivor's guilt even when there's retrenchments, you know. So there's grief happening, you know, in many ways, but there's also trauma with that, either in the body or mental trauma. And we are our client support system when they don't have a family or a community to support them. And we do life with you here in the tiny room. And I love that because it's not a transaction. You know, I heard that this week where, you know, clients have gone to other private practices or through other frameworks, you know, processes, be it counselling or therapy, and they felt it. They felt that they were just a number. They felt like a business transaction, and it was just this exchange of a service instead of getting in the pit, getting in the trenches, getting our hands dirty, being there in the darkness, and walking a journey and doing life with our clients and being an actual support system, because that is inconvenience. You know, and if you really are going to unconditionally love somebody, it is inconvenient. It's not pretty. It's messy. But we do the hard work, and our clients need to live their best life and go boss their lives. And now that you're here at the tiny room, and you're seeing almost like behind the scenes, not only running a private practice and all that business stuff, but also therapy and how we do therapy here, and what excites you, knowing what you know now, going through what you went through. What would you have liked it to have been, knowing what you know now? Just in closing, you know, maybe speaking to our viewers, kind of linking the two, personal story plus your experience now, kind of mesh it together if you can.
That's a very interesting question, because I thought about that, like what would it have been for me if I had to go and see somebody, if I had to walk a journey. And I went to like a school counselor, but you know, school counselors are busy, they're seeing multiple people, and it wasn't really a one-on-one journey. But I think about what that would have been like, and I think the important thing for people to know is that there's no shame in reaching out for help and saying, I can't do this by myself, and I need somebody to walk through this with me, because it is difficult. Life is difficult. Adding grief on top of that is like times 1,000. It's crazy. And I think that having someone being willing to get into the pit with you and work through the feelings that you are feeling is important. And you know, being at the tiny room and you know, interacting with the clients and hearing, you know, some of these stories that they are willing to share, I think that we are seeing a great shift in, well, at least in the northern suburbs with the people that I've interacted with, we are seeing a great shift in people wanting to seek help.
And if you are someone who is needing help, reach out to us at www.thetinyroomtherapy.com. You can also WhatsApp us, you can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, and you can definitely drop us an email if you have any questions. All of our bookings are done through our website, but please reach out. Reach out. You are not needing to live alone. You are not needing to suffer in silence. And if you are experiencing any form of grief or trauma, please come and visit and come and do life with us here at the Tiny Room. Kirsty, Monday, and myself are waiting to hear from you. And we just appreciate you spending this time with myself and Whitney. And Whitney, thank you so much for your time, being so brave to tell your story and share your journey with us. It is definitely going to be helpful to somebody who is watching, and if you would love to just pop down somewhere in the comments a question, reach out, encourage, send your love, and we would love to hear from you. Go and like, go and subscribe, click on the notification button. Let's get this episode out there. We can definitely help more people by not keeping this information or this beautiful story to ourselves. So we love you and we thank you for your time, and we'll hear from you soon. We'll see you real soon. Bye.